Hey there, friends. This is going to be another episode in PigCake's Picks. On today's video, we're going to be specifically looking at an individual. Usually I look at products or something that you should purchase, but today we're going to be taking a look at a man. Now, I know what you're saying. PigCake, you can't buy people anymore. And to that, I have to say, what a shame. But this time, we're not talking about purchasing an individual. We're talking about studying the works of Jerry Andrus. Now, who's Jerry Andrus? Jerry Andrus was a magician, unfortunately passed away in 2007. He was a magician, an inventor. He was an author and an overall weird guy. Now, what makes Jerry Andrus so different, you might be asking? Well, Jerry Andrus is one of those magicians that didn't study the works of other magicians. He would come up with his own stuff, and he would come up with his own moves and his own tricks and ways to do things that didn't involve pre-existing sleights. Rarely did he do moves that were made by other people. He would only use his own material and come up with the sleights necessary to facilitate the effect that he wanted. Nowadays, if you chose to only abide by stuff that you made up, it would be absurd. People in the Magic Cafe would probably get heart attacks and strokes and other age-related illnesses because of your inability to credit. Of course, often the crediting involves having to look up some obscure pamphlet that was Xeroxed in 1978 and only handed to 5 people in a convention somewhere in Arizona. Now, is the magic of Jerry Andrus going to be something that's commercial or organic or something that you're going to be able to take in your own shows and perform? No. How about his card magic? Are you going to be able to take his card magic and implement the sleights that he uses and add them to your own routines? Probably not. So then why bother studying the works of Jerry Andrus? Well, it's because of his ability to inspire one to create. His version of the cups and balls, for example, uses pipes from plumbing and little ball bearings. Now, I wouldn't imagine anybody to use those unless those are the things that you had around you and you decided to come up with the sleights necessary to do that, which is exactly what Jerry did. Studying his works isn't necessarily going to improve your own current repertoire of moves, but what it will do is inspire you creatively to think in different ways. Now, my problem with learning magic is that it's a double-edged sword. You learn a lot and you increase your repertoire of moves, but unfortunately that branches you down to think in terms of those moves. Now, instead of coming up with different ways on your own to solve a problem, you just look in your pre-existing toolbox and pick something out and add it in. Whereas sometimes what would help out tremendously is coming up with something entirely just for that particular routine or trick or effect, which is exactly what Jerry Andrus does in 99% of his material. His most famous routine is called Zone Zero, where he takes a plastic ball and a cardboard cutout with a hole in it that somewhat resembles a glory hole that I would use, and he takes a ball and puts it inside this hole and makes it disappear while showing his hands empty completely fairly. Now, what I love about this particular routine is that, again, it contains sleights entirely made up for the purpose of that particular routine. In no way is he performing classic sleights or anything that's already invented in magic. He had to invent moves to facilitate the effect that he wanted, which is to put the ball in that hole and make it completely vanish. As a matter of fact, to show you how crazy this man was, if you look at the pattern on the Zone Zero apparatus, it was created by his own heartbeat. And it wasn't just a heartbeat that he took by measuring one of the graphs that they have at a hospital. He put a mirror in his arm and he looked at the reflection with the light and the pattern that it made on the wall, and he was able to replicate that, and that is what caused that design on that particular board. You have to be a psycho to think in that way when it just would suffice to put little lines on the board, and that would have been enough to decorate it. But that shows you the ingenuity and the thought process that goes behind the mind of Jerry Andrus. Now, another aspect of Jerry Andrus that I think applies to a lot of magic today is the idea of treating your spectators like a gift. Jerry Andrus was one to never lie to a spectator, and as a matter of fact, when doing a mind reading piece, after the mind reading piece, he would tell them he can't really read minds, and that was just a trick. Each and every single spectator is a gift, according to Jerry Andrus, and should be treated with respect, which goes against the PigCake moral code, because I personally think that spectators that decide to watch a magician are worse than a magician for wasting their time. I'm going to be leaving some links in the description below as to how you could see and study the works of Jerry Andrus, and some YouTube videos where you get more of an insight into the man and the craziness that this man lived on a day-to-day basis. So that is PigCake's pick. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching this particular video. I wanted to give a little bit of attention to Jerry Andrus, seeing that we're going through a time period where information is pretty much water. I often find myself scrolling through TikTok and perusing through women twerking and life hack videos, and I forgot my train of thought. And we've become so adjusted to an influx of information that we don't value and we just discard. That magicians like Jerry Andrus, that unfortunately aren't releasing things actively into the community, are going to be forgotten. And I really hope that never happens with someone like Jerry Andrus. So, if one of you didn't know about this magician and now you learned a little bit or two about this particular individual, then I think this video was a success. So, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to go figure out different ways to touch others and not go to jail. I've been drinking Death Wish coffee quite a bit, and I find myself quite jittery. As a matter of fact, the outtakes in this video are quite hysterical because I'm increasingly angry every time I mess up a word or have a little bit of a mishap and have to cut and start over. So I don't know if I should put those in a compilation video somewhere down the line. Not really sure, but it's there. They're there. Trust me.